The strange history of cats. Cat facts maybe you didn't know. A house cat's genome is 95.6% tiger. Cats are believed to be the only mammal who do not taste sweetness. Cats are supposed to have 18 toes, 5 toes on each front paw, 4 toes on each back paw. Some have extra, and those are polydactyl. They say it's a gene defect, but I saw this as art because an angel is not defective. Trying to nail down a time when cats were domesticated has been very difficult for archaeologists. The best guesstimate they have is 12,000 years ago when the first agricultural societies began to flourish in the Middle East's Fertile Crescent. A cat was found deliberately buried with its owner in a grave in Cyprus some 9,500 years ago. The bone structure of a wild cat and a domesticated cat really have no differences, so that makes it even harder for scientists who normally would turn to bones to gather knowledge about ancient civilizations are not able to do it with cats. Dogs are assumed to be domesticated long before because they could help with hunts. Cats were welcomed in when grain stores needed to be protected from rodents. Grains would attract rodents, and rodents would attract wild cats, and of course, cats being cats welcomed themselves in and feasted on a never-ending supply of rodents. It is believed that cats with better temperaments became pets, and the rest is history. But that is not the end of history for cats. Cats have a sordid historic stain of Satan, the Black Plague, and witches, so let's dive in. As a modern society, we know that controlling the rodent population is a good idea, given that they're a wonderful host to fleas, which is not only like the glitter of the bug community, but almost impossible to get rid of without a flamethrower, and they spread plague. Rats have long been blamed for spreading the Black Death around Europe in the 14th century. Specifically, historians have speculated that fleas on rats were responsible for estimated 25 million plague deaths between 1347 and 1351. How did the rat and the flea population get so bad? Well, the reigning pope at the time, Pope Gregory, who ruled from 1227 to 1241, decided that cats were part of Satan's army, and people went on a killing spree. Kill off the cats, the rats move in with their glitter bugs, and voila, you have plague. As a side note, old Greg was known to have a bad temperament and was a miserable person. One might say this might have changed if he had a cat as a pet, as cats are proven to calm people who are otherwise on edge. If we had to count all the deaths over the years due to religious lunacy, my guess is that it would be in the billions. I'm sure someone has made an estimate somewhere, but you can Google it, I suppose. Let's get back to talking about cats. More fun cat facts. Have you ever seen a cat climb down something backwards? Well, cats' claws are all curved downwards, which means they can't climb down trees head first. Instead, they have to back down the trunk. Cats have nearly twice the amount of neurons in their cerebral cortex as dogs, which explains a lot now that I think about it. So to wrap up the great catastrophe, as the story goes, war was declared on cats as instruments of Satan and set medieval Europe on a great cat purge with special attention paid to black cats. Why? It appears that a medieval priest, Conrad von Marburg, was commissioned by the Archbishop of Mainz to root out heresy in Germany. Relishing the chance to let his fanaticism run free, his work produced a series of curious confessions which involved black cats painting a picture of heretical devil worship, which inspired the Pope to issue the official papal decree known as the Vox in Rama in June of 1233. So what was this really about? Well, it was about Luciferianism, or devil worship in northwestern Germany. Cats got caught up in a religious war, and humans, being humans, did what we do best, make stupid decisions, and we inadvertently wiped out 25 million people with a plague. Of course, you can't talk about cats without talking about Egypt. Egyptians have entire tombs with mummified cats. One had over 200. The Egyptians were an agricultural society, and Egypt was a great trade hub, so we can only imagine they were a lot smarter than old Greg and knew that cats not only controlled diseases and pests, but also calmed down the most crankiest of Karens. So they worshiped them. I own a few cats, and I can tell you that cats still haven't gone over this. Mine think they are gods, and every time you go out of your way to do something special for your troublemaking cat, your cat is thinking, "That's right, peasant, do my bidding." I can tell by the condescending looks on their faces. Trust me on that one. More fun cat facts. Cats walk like giraffes and camels. They move both their right feet first, then move both their left feet. There is no other animal in the world that walks this way. Some cats are ambidextrous, but 40% are either left or right pawed. It's believed that catnip produces an effect similar to LSD or marijuana in cats. The effects of the chemical in catnip that can make cats crazy wears off within 15 minutes, but won't surface again for a few hours, even if your cat remains in sniffing distance. So catnip actually has a timer on it. So let's get into the cat-witch connection. Black cats have long been associated with witches, but where did this stem from? We can probably guess that old Greg in his issue with Luciferianism, as black cats were in the confessions that were drawn. We could also argue they only had black ink back then, so was it really a black cat, or was it just a cat? Legend has it there was a very famous cat named Sathan, who was tied to a very famous witch trial in 1566. Sathan sounds a lot like Satan. This was the first widely documented witchcraft trial and was that of Elizabeth Frances Agnes Waterhouse. What is it with these people and their very long names? Okay, and her daughter Joan. It was said that Elizabeth's grandmother had given her a cat named Sathan, whom Elizabeth carried around in a basket, fed on bread, milk, and her own blood while practicing the black arts. Apparently, it is rumored Sathan was responsible for the death of Andrew Biles, who had made Elizabeth pregnant but refused to marry her. 15 years later, Sathan was passed on to Elizabeth's sister, Agnes Waterhouse, whereupon he apparently continued his evil bidding, causing the death of many geese and cows in the area. There were numerous trials involving Elizabeth Frances and her family, with Sathan always figured as a scapegoat for various misfortunes and deaths within their township and local area. Sensationalized stories of witches spread throughout Britain, further damaging feline reputations. It played out very differently for each of these women accused. Elizabeth's detailed accounts and confessions in the trials ended up saving her from persecution. She instead became an authority on the subject and even served as a court-recognized witch hunter. Her sister, on the other hand, Agnes, was not so lucky and was executed in July of 1566. Her daughter Joan was acquitted. So to wrap this up, over the years, cats have been the saviors of societies from plagues, went to war with the Pope, were worshipped in other cultures, and are the favorite familiar to witches. At a Native American burial mound in what is now Western Illinois, archaeologists have unearthed the 2,000-year-old bobcat. We've already talked about an even older cat, so why is this one so special? For one, it's a historical one-off and the only recorded burial of a bobcat across the entire annals of archaeology. On top of that, it was placed in the middle of 22 humans. It was also found with a fancy shell and bare teeth collar around its neck. And to end this segment on the gods and goddesses we like to call cats, more fun cat facts. Have you ever wondered why some cats walk around with their tails curled like a question mark and some do not? A cat with a question mark shaped tail is asking, want to play? You can guarantee that's the cat you want to take to your next office party, as they will be the most fun. And last but not least, cats have contributed to the extinction of 33 different species. Keep in mind, this is mostly feral cats doing this, but the adorable desert bandicoot is no longer around, and they blame cats and the paradise parrots also. Now they can blame cats all they want, but the root of the problem was colonization, and that likely is a whole other podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. This podcast was produced by Dead to Me Productions and the brainchild of Amy Domestico. Thank you, Spreaker, for being such a great podcast.